Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to cover an IT career plan for your very first year in IT. And I'm going to touch the topics of study plan, work plan, and experience, and how they all interact together and give you basically what you need in order to succeed. This video is going to cover a lot of ground, and I'm going to touch a lot of topics really fast. So if you have any questions or you feel that I didn't deliver the point well enough, feel free to leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer you there. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to cover before even diving into any of these topics is that they're all connected. You can't really progress your career in IT if you don't have all three of them to some degree and a plan to all of them practically. This does not mean that you need to be a full-time student, a full-time work employee, or have experience in order to get started, but it does mean that you need to have a mix of all of those three always progressing. So right now, I'm going to start by touching the first pillar, which is a study plan, which is what I believe is the most crucial part when you get started. And as you progress in the journey, it still is important and critical, but the other pillars will start taking priority over the first one. So let's get started. In terms of study plan, the first tip that I want to give you, and also not just a tip, but basically a great place to begin, is going through a beginner route. And I have listed here in the screen a few of the common beginner route that I've seen a lot of people take during my years of IT. First of all, the traditional system administrative course, if you're going to go with Windows or with Red Hat, either Windows or Linux in terms of certification, and go through the MCSA route or the RHCE route, and those will be the system administrator routes of the respective operating system, Windows or Linux. Another route is for people who are more interested in network administration or network in general, and those will be either the Cisco or the Juniper certification. The CCNA is heavily favored in this route because it has a lot of good backgrounds and a very, very robust training program that you might want to consider before going for the Juniper one. But all training here are based around entry, around the beginning route for IT, and they're all very good no matter which one of them you pick. It's just a matter of preference. I would say, just to give you the heads up, I would say the majority, about 60 to 70%, will with the left options of either Windows MCSA or Cisco CCNA. And there's really no going wrong with those two options. I would say that they are the tested and true method of going through IT study curriculum, and I would recommend them heavily. So once you've decided to study a course, what is the next step? How do you obtain the study material, and what are the training options that are available for you? And this is where you're starting about basically a two-part discussion. The first discussion is, are you going to be self-taught or are you going to use a certification program that is instructor-led? A certification program that are instructor-led can be either online as an online recorded course or on-demand course, or a training center, a full experience like a classroom, the normal experience of going to a class and studying any topic. I put a short list of the comparison factors that you should take into consideration, and I'm going to touch some of the points based on my experience. I'm going to give you the background that I've done all three of them extensively. I've done a lot of training, both online courses, both in training centers, and a lot of topics I've also self taught in various portions of my career. So I'm really not saying that you need to take one route and be religious about it, but you do need to select the beginning route, the first year. And this is really depends more about your character and what you're planning to achieve. Some of it does come down to budget, because as you can see here, some of the options have a budget cost with them. But let's just cover them bullet by bullet and touch the high points. So for starters, if you're going with price, and price is the factor that makes most sense to you or most critical to you, I would say the self-taught option, or the option where you're going through free materials, are basically free. It's if it's not completely free, then it's almost completely free. You might want to pick up a book, buy some book on Amazon, used books, and also you're able to do like a digital copy of a book for a few dollars. You might want to go with the some video training that you will pay for, but then you can buy something very specific at like 50, 100, $150. But in general, self-taught is the way to go for free. There's a lot of great content out there. I'm going to put some links in this description, and a lot of good content regarding training material, Just search one of the options like YouTube or Google, and you're going to find a lot of it. And I'm going to touch it in one of the next slides. The second option is going with an online course. And this is where you can go with one of the vendors that are providing online training. And an honorable mention here is CBT Nuggets. I would say they're pretty much the best if you're planning to get started. There are a lot of good vendors in this field. I'm not saying that CBT Nuggets is the only one. I will say that I had most success with CBT Nuggets, and I've watched a lot of other training vendors as well. I would say that they are probably the best in terms of entry level or beginner courses, at least based on my experience. And they're also very, very fair in terms of their pricing. It's not going to cost you more than $500 a year. There's even much cheaper options in CBT Nuggets. So there's nothing not to recommend here. The third option is going through a training center, and this is the most expensive option by far. It will cost you a few $1,000s depending on where you live and whether the course that you're planning to achieve and what is the way it's being instructed, how much hours in the class. And this is actually quite a fair price when you consider the cost of the faculty, the places where you need to go to in order to study, the cost of the instructor time if you're going to have full instructor-led training. And I would say that you're paying a lot for what can be potentially a lower gain than the other perspective. And this is where I'm going to start touching on the values and such. So in terms of value, I would say the self-taught route is the one that varies the most. If you're a good self-training person, then you're going to make a lot of value with self-taught approach. And that is for sure going to be the fastest route for you to achieve a lot of knowledge and cover a lot of ground fast. If you're a bad learner though, or you need a lot of motivation to get you in the right direction, or a lot of mentoring before you are able to make the initial steps, then you're going to see very bad returns here because you're going to be left alone. And being self-taught does come to a point where you need some basic understanding of the topic before you get started. And this is where you might falter. So I would say self-taught is a risk here. In terms of online courses, they are completely reliable. You take a certification plan like MCSA from CBT Nuggets or other vendor. It starts, it ends, it's very structured. It's not completely structured because there are some things that you need to maybe explore outside this training material, but overall, fantastic material, well documented, ready to go and test and proven. If they have any kind of flaws or gaps in their iteration of the training material, they're gonna cover it really fast. I would say that it's also those courses are the most relevant because they are mostly often updated because they are online. And this is something that kind of differentiate from self-taught and the training center. The training center might have material that is 1 or 2 years old based on the way that they refresh their training material and they refresh their training instructor knowledge. So you might have a very experience here. In terms of training center value, I would say it varies mostly because of the cost. It's very expensive, so it might not be as valuable compared to a cheaper option like an online course, but you should be getting a good return on your money in terms of the knowledge, but it is more varied than the online course. In terms of instructor, if you're going with a self-taught route, obviously it's you plus a few of the mentors you might find along the way. If you're going with an online course, you're getting the best of the best. And this is something that it took me a while to understand and put my finger on it, but I do want to share with you the experience. If you're seeing a course that has 10 million views on YouTube, or a course that has been bought for 1,000 times by countless students, usually it means that the instructor and the way the material is structured is phenomenal. It might be even the best instructor in the world. And because it was recorded, he invested one time to record his course. And this is where he's seeing return on his time. It might be actually the best instructor in the world who's recorded 20 hours of his time. And now you're getting the best of the best for a very, very low fraction of the cost of what it would cost to get 20 hours of his time. So you're getting the best of the best, especially if you're going with CBT Nuggets. I'm really hyping on them this video, but I'm by no means sponsored by them. In terms of training center, I found it to be hit and miss. It really is varied. It depends on the standard of this training institute. It depends on the type of material that you're aiming to learn and how much it's close to the expertise of the instructor. There's better instruction centers, the bedding training center, but there are some that are not great. But it really is varied. They have a lot of instructors. It might be you get a better one, a more motivated instructor. Maybe it's the first time he's passing this course. Maybe it's the 10th, and each one of those has advantages and disadvantages. I would say that this is something that you should consider. Hit and miss. I don't really have anything else to add to that point. In terms of discipline, which is very important for any study material or any study option, when you're going with self-taught, you are what you are. You're going to get the best discipline that you can enforce on yourself. And I'm going to cover a few of those tips in the next slides, but it's really up to you to be motivated to learn. And it's kind of hard if you don't have this motivation. If you're going with an online course, it is semi-structured. There is a structure. You need to see 20 videos and then do a lab environment and then do another 10 videos. There is a structure to it, but it's loosely enforced. You'll still need to go through that structure. So it is hard if you don't have the discipline, but much easier than the self-taught route by far. If you're going to a training center, this is where it's structured. Usually you need to go to an environment, to the class, and then it has some kind of structure of hours that you study with an instructor, a lab, homework assignment, and such. It's much more structured, and it helps people that have discipline issues. I want to stress here that everyone has discipline issue. Even the best of the best has efforts that they need to take in order to study hard. But it's really important to be honest with yourself when you're starting the first year of IT. Are you really in a shape to have enough discipline to follow a semi-structured approach or no structure approach? And if you are, go with it. But if you know for a fact that it's not going to work out, or you start and you see it's not working out, don't be discouraged. Go to a training center, spend the amount of money, go for a structured approach. If it's not working for you and structured as well, you'll need to find the fourth option, which does not exist on this table. Don't give up so early in the journey, and do understand that you're a human person and you're not able to have the utmost discipline in every scenario. In terms of networking, this is something that is less relevant for the first year, but it can be a very good place to introduce yourself to a lot of people who might be your peers in a year or two, and might open opportunities for you for jobs or any other opportunities that exist out there. So if you're going with the self-taught route, you're almost close to zero in terms of a relationship outside of your immediate realm. If you're going with an online course, there are some forums, some discussion boards, some email lists and such. There is minor interaction, but it's very, very remote. And if you're going with a class environment of a training institute, then you're getting the best in terms of networking. I can tell you that every course that I went to, I found one or two friends that I've kept in contact, and some of them offered me potential jobs after a few years. Some of them were colleagues that worked with me and aided me when I needed some advice in their fields. And some of them were actually my employees when I aimed to hire a new employee to my team. That's a great place to look for people that have a similar level of knowledge to you, or at least someone that you've known for a period of time that is interested in the field. So that's all I want to cover in terms of how to study or what are the training options. I do want to talk about a study plan and in terms of a training schedule. And I would say that these things I wrote here are what worked for me. I think that this is a great place to be in terms of speed. If you're planning any kind of certification, your goal is to complete it from 3 to 6 months from start to finish. And I know this looks like a very small number for some people or a very high number for others. It's really a base point. If you do any certification, 3 to 6 months, and you're talking about the beginner ones, you can finish 2 to 4 certification per year. It'll put you in an amazing situation next year when you have 2 certification in hand. Fantastic. If you get 4, even better, but even 2 is a great place to be. So aim for this goal and study according. You need to start creating like a weekly quota, and this is by all means not the only way, but this is what worked for me. I created a weekly quota of hours that I'm going to meet. And I had the concept of, if I'm going to study for 15 hours this week, and I'm able to complete it by the weekend is free, or the weekend would be like 1 hour of training. And if I didn't complete it, then I'm going to study those 15 hours in the weekend. And it was a very, very painful program in some weeks because I had like no time this week, so I had to study for 10 hours the weekend. But it worked for me. It's very self-motivating. You want the weekend off, and you're getting it without any guilt because you finished your quota during the week. You should go with something that works for you. This is just my suggestion. And if you have a good suggestion, why not throw a comment and explain what you did, and it'll be great for everyone to learn. So another important part of the study plan, and this is something that I stress, that the earliest you'll do it, the more benefit you'll gain from it, and also it will create really the right type of mindset for you. And this is to obtain knowledge outside of the box. And what I mean by that is that you're not necessarily going to go through certification route to another certification route to another certification route and study nothing outside of the certificate. You should also invest time, at least 1 hour or 2 hours a week, to consider other topics that interest you, like server infrastructure, networking, and maybe topics that are related to a very specific niche field like Dockers or anything else that you've heard of. So go through another one of those topics 1 hour a week, and this is something that will give you a lot of added value the longer you do it, because it will start condensing into good knowledge that you'll connect to things that you've already learned in your field, and also expand your horizon to other things that you might want to learn down the road. The second thing that you might want to consider in this 1 hour of out of the box knowledge is going through IT or cyber news. Listen to the news, understand what's going on around you, hear the latest trends. There's a lot of information there that might help you in a job interview. It might help you understand better the field that you're in, and it will also keep you in a place where you're not oblivious to things that are going on around you. I've seen a lot of IT administrators that are only studying some specific topics, and then when they obtain them, they're like in a closed box and in a fish tank type of approach. And this means that they're pretty much left to their own devices. And after a period of time, they're disconnected from the IT field. And this is something that will help you be connected. And the last thing that I want to throw out there is going through maybe an advanced concept or some buzzwords that you've heard at work or you heard in the street or in your training center. Buzzwords help you. They help you because you learn new things really fast. They help you because they expose you to knowledge that is cutting edge most of the time or very new. And they help you because if you go to a job interview and you know one of those buzzwords and someone throw them out, it really helps. It shows that you have the added value about other candidates that are more strictly, certificate-based route knowledge. So I would say it's really helpful. The places where you're going to get them, YouTube and Google are your friend. I would say that those are the only two resources you need. There are other resources like IT news sites and cyber news sites and such, but I would strongly recommend staying with Google and YouTube. The next point that I want to talk about is the work plan. And the work plan is basically the plan you should have from day one in IT. How do I get my first job, and what is my first job going to be like? This is where I'm going to touch 2 points that are very important to understand. It's really about the journey here. You're not going to find the best job in IT on your first go. It's something that I haven't seen or heard that happens often. You might have a way into a good company, but starting in a good position from the beginning without a lot of experience and knowledge, it's not going to happen. So, first of all, you should prioritize getting a job. Prioritize getting a job in IT is by no means bad. If you need to invest time in studies, study topics and questions and things that are related to job interviews. You don't know what to study? Look for the job description details, understand if you have that knowledge or not, and build a knowledge process around it to obtain this knowledge. I put a good example here of system administrator in the right, and it's very important for you to note that if you're looking to work as a system administrator, and you can put any other classification of an IT position that you have in mind, a DBA administrator, a programmer, doesn't really matter. If you're planning to work as a system administrator and you're starting with zero knowledge and experience, you might not get it. You might need to work getting the experience and knowledge in order for you to be able to work as a system administrator. but it doesn't mean that you're not able to get your first job in a field that is close to it, or in a place where you get some of the experience to transition to this job you're interested in. So, for example, if I want to work as a system administrator and I just got started, I might not be able to find a job as a system administrator, but a help desk or a tier 1 support or a PC technician, those are options that are maybe available to me with limited experience, or maybe are available for me with on the job training in an entry position. And those are things I should embrace with both hands and take them, because they will give me some tools, some experience, and some work experience that I will be able to transition to my system administrator job as soon as I have more knowledge and experience. And potentially, if there's a system administrator job opening in the company I work with, it might create a promotion opportunity inside the company. I will touch on that topic in a later video. What is better, to be promoted internally or to migrate to a different job every X amount of years? There's a lot of advice on both ends. To summarize this point, your objective is to find your first job as soon as you can. You're going to try to find it as close as you can to your target first job classification that interests you. And if you're not able to find this description, like a system administrator, you're going to find the closest or something that has relevant experience that will transition. And this is where you're going to start. If you don't have a job within 3 or 4 months of when you're starting to learn the IT field, then you should consider stopping your curriculum and going through all the knowledge that you need to obtain in order to get your first job. It is very important that you do. I would say that this is where a lot of people miss, and they finish their study plan for like a year and only then start finding a job. Don't do that. That will hurt you much more than you know, because you're not getting the work experience, and you need that clock to be ticking in order for you to have the work experience for your next position. There's nothing worse, from my experience, than studying for a full year to become a system administrator, only to find out that you need to work for 2 years as a help desk before you're able to become a system administrator. The much better alternative is to work for 9 months to 1 year as a help desk while you're learning to become a system administrator, and then look for opportunities to transition. And this is something that is very important, and it's not that self-explanatory to people who are new to the field. The last topic that I'm going to touch is about experience. And as we mentioned before, and I'm not going to talk too much about it, work experience is a must-have. You need to get work experience. It's very hard to find job without work experience. It's a challenge always to get started when you don't have it. And you should put priority to invest and to earn work experience. If you don't have enough work experience previously, start by finding the entry job. You have some experience earlier that you want to transition and try to get a better opportunity, go for it. But you must obtain work experience as early as you can, as much as you can. It will never bring you to a bad place if you have work experience. The second point is about home experience, or a lab environment at your home. And I found a nice picture on the internet of a lab environment, and I put it here. I have to say that my lab environment personally was much bigger, but I don't have pictures, so you'll have to take my word for it. It's very important to get a home lab environment. And it doesn't necessarily has to be a big home lab environment as you're seeing here with like 6 routers and switches and the servers. It can be a single laptop that has virtual machines on them. It has never been so accessible to start building a lab environment than today. Even a basic laptop can run 6, 8 servers virtually and perform multiple functions. And this will be out of the box experience for most people with the normal standard laptop, but you should invest in the home environment that you're going to practice on. Why should you practice in a home environment? Well, other than the study benefits of learning through practice, which is phenomenal and will be crucial to your studies, it is also a way for you to get your first job. When you go to the first job interview, they ask you, do you have previous experience? And the answer is no. You're putting yourself in a bad place. The true answer should be, I have yet to gain work experience, but I have a sick lab in my home, a great lab in my home that I've experimented with, multiple servers, installation, configuration, and all kinds of amazing stuff that I did there. And better yet, if you're able to show it. This is one of my latest labs that I've created. This is something that I've done recently. This will be how you will win your first job with ease. And a lot of people skip this step or think that they're able to do it with only their study experience, only their certification. This is the ace in the hole. If you have a lab environment on your laptop that you're able to show how you created an Active Directory domain, connected clients to it, and performed all kinds of administrative activities on them, that will set you apart from the people who have not done it. And you'll be surprised how many people do not do it as part of their training, knowledge obtained, or anything else. And this is something that you can use to expand your knowledge and differentiate yourself from the competition for any job opening that you're going to take. So I hope I gave you a good structure and balance between study, work, and experience and how they interact with each other. A good place to be after a full year of study, a full year of everything of this nature, is working a 9 to 5 job in the IT field, preferably in a field close to your target description. So if you want to be a system administrator after 1 year, hopefully you already have an opportunity to go to become a system administrator. But if not, you're working in one of the satellites like a help desk for a period of 9-10 months already. You need to get your work experience up and running as soon as you can. This is something that you need to aim for. You need to create a study plan to complete 2 certification, maybe 3, maybe 4 in 1 year, the first year. It shows great sign if we see good momentum. As an employer, I've hired a lot of people in my experience. If you're seeing someone who is completing 2 certificates per year on their first year, it gives you a sign that they are truly eager to learn. And this is an employee that you will hire without even thinking, because it gives you the confidence that if you give them a work environment where they're able to learn, they will invest their time heavily and they will give you the return for their investment. And this is something that you want to find as a prospect to a job opening. So definitely that is your goal. And overall, if you have managed to obtain all of those things in your first year, let me tell you, year 2 is going to be easier, it's going to be smoother, and it's going to be a year where you're going to see a lot of success in. So I hope it's been informative for you. And if you have any questions or you want to get more information regarding the first year, leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer it.